So, King Charles is set to travel to Southport this morning to pay his respects to those who were affected by the mass stabbing that took place at the Taylor Swift-themed dance school in late July.
3 children tragically died and a further 10 people were injured following the incident in Merseyside. King Charles will thank emergency staff for their ongoing support in helping the local community. Joining us now is GB News Royal correspondent Cameron Walker. Cameron, hi. Right, OK, what's going to go on there today? What are we expecting the King to do?
Morning, Dawn. Well, of course, we're just over 3 weeks on from that horrific attack which you've just described, and Buckingham Palace have confirmed that the King is interrupting his holiday and will be travelling down here to Southport to continue to show his support to communities here. On the day of the attack, the King expressed his shock for the utterly horrific incident and expressed his heartfelt condolences and prayers to the victims and their families. Since then, he's been keeping an incredibly close eye on the situation in Southport and the subsequent riots. In fact, he asked to be given daily updates from various organisations. The Prime Minister he had a phone call with, as well as the National Police Chiefs Council, among others. So later on today, the King is expected to arrive at the Town Hall here in Southport, which is just in front of me, and it's there where he is expected to be meeting survivors from that Taylor Swift-themed dance class and their families, as well as some of the other members of the local community. I can see crash barriers have been set up outside the Town Hall, which suggests to me that he may be wanting to meet ordinary members of the public here, local communities. Of course, that's not been confirmed by Buckingham Palace, but I wouldn't be surprised if that does indeed happen. Following his visit to the Town Hall here, the King is going to be going to the local community fire station here in Southport, where he will be meeting emergency service workers who responded to the initial attack on the 29th of July, but also had to respond to the riots which were sparked by that attack. So he's going to be meeting police, fire and ambulance workers, as well as leaders from local faith groups here in Southport. If you remember, there was violent disorder outside of a mosque in Southport, and the King has a long-standing mission, I suppose, even when he was Prince of Wales, to talk about community cohesion and getting different faith leaders and to talk to each other and dialogue between different faiths and to keep the peace, essentially. So I can imagine that's going to be a key theme of today.
We're joined now by Editor-in-Chief of Majesty Magazine, Ingrid Seward, who joins us to go through all of this. Ingrid, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Ingrid, obviously it's a very emotional trip the King is making this morning. What do you think he's going to say, how he's going to handle this?
Well, King Charles has had many years' experience in these kind of disasters. Obviously not, they're all different, but he is a very caring person and he is a good listener. So he will ask the right questions. He will listen to what people have to say. And I think they're very encouraged by his warmth and the fact that he is a sort of a tactile person. I mean, he probably took some tips from Princess Diana back in those days when she used to hug people in the crowds. He's far more tactile now as King than he ever was as Prince of Wales. And people find his presence very comforting. As Cameron explained earlier, very succinctly, that the royal family don't rush up to these disasters because they get in the way and they realise that, and they have to wait till the security says, right, you can come. Because years and years, well, in fact, 28 years ago, when there was the Dunblane massacre, the Princess of Wales, Diana, at the time, wanted to go up there, and she was absolutely banned. They said, no, the first person up here has to be the Queen, and she has to wait until we say it's all clear. So even with things like this, there is an official protocol, which I think is quite interesting to know, because in Europe, the royal families there, they'll rush to a disaster thing immediately, but here they're not allowed to because they actually make things more difficult.
Of course, a huge impact on the whole community, of course, the events of the last 2 to 3 weeks. Let's speak now to the Chief Executive of the Southport Amusement Park, Norman Wallace. Good morning, Norman.
Good morning.
Good morning. I took a few trips to Southport Amusement Park, myself being from Manchester when I was younger, and a lovely town with just fantastic kind of tourist and normally a very sleepy, uneventful sort of town to go and visit. What's the impact been of events of the last few weeks there?
Well, Southport's a beautiful place. It is a very safe place to live, to work and to visit, but the impact has been absolutely incredible. Because of the recent events, people have become worried about coming and visiting Southport, and that's really not necessary because it's a very safe place to be. But the impact is almost beyond understanding. Unless we get some help from the government, the town is possibly due to complete failure. That's how bad it is.
What do you mean by that, Norman? Just explain that to us.
Social media has created a bit of a frenzy of Southport not being a safe place to visit, but it is a safe place. It's a beautiful place, as you just mentioned. It's got lovely architecture. It's got a lot of things to do, and people need to realise that they are safe to come here. It's a beautiful, safe place to be. This is an isolated incident. It's a terrible thing that's happened, but people should not be concerned about coming to visit Southport.
Norman, how important is the King's visit to you today?
Well, hopefully it proves to people that the area is safe, and for the King to come here now and things, as you just mentioned, relax with the security services, and it will, we're welcoming the King, and we want to welcome all the rest of the population of the UK and anywhere that wants to come and visit us.
When you say the area's safe, Norman, are you talking specifically that you think those fears are related to the initial stabbing at the summer camp, or do you mean the subsequent riots and disruption that happened afterwards?
Both, actually, because sometimes the social media gets the story wrong. Within an hour of it happening, we had people come to our front gate saying that we had to close. There were madmen running around Southport with knives stabbing people, which was obviously not really quite correct. It was an isolated incident. And so the social media causes an unnecessary frenzy of fear, and mostly by people that are not involved, that many of them are not involved in the area. Many of the people that came to the riots, of course, there were some people that were local that got carried away, but most of those people were from outside coming to just cause a nuisance. Now, that's not to say that some things need to change, because perhaps they do, but those people that caused that disturbance were mainly not from the town.
I think it's a complicated issue, and I don't want to lay the blame of everything that happened at the door of social media, because in my opinion, if you want to pick up a brick and throw it at a police officer, you are responsible for those actions. It's not because of something you've read online.
I never said that. I'm talking about the people being in fear to come, and I can say that because immediately as it happened, people were emailing us saying, can they cancel, because they were worried about coming. Muslim people asking if they can they cancel or rearrange. But on the next day, I actually approached a group of people, and I asked them if they were Muslim, and they said yes. I said, obviously you've heard about the incident, and some people are now worried about coming to Southport. And immediately before I'd finished my words, they said, we've come here to Southport because we know it's safe. And that's wonderful that people think such a thing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's the truth.
And it has to be safe for everybody. And also, you need to use social media for good as well, Norman. So
Absolutely. And with the good, the day after the riots happened, I put out on social media that we should all work together and try and help the people on the Sussex Road to repair the walls. And we got a big group of people, local people, to come down, and we cleared everything up. And, it was great to be working with all those people. There were builders, Max Henshaw's builders, and landscape gardeners, and local councillors, and everybody came together to clear that area up. And on the 1st of September, we're doing a fundraiser for the local hospitals and the air ambulance, because they're all local, and without them, there could have been more deaths that day.
OK.
And so we've got to help the community.
Right. I tell you what, Norman, tweet us some pictures of the Southport amusement park, and we will get them all over social media and get people up there on the rides and having a wonderful summer. Thank you so much for joining us, Norman Wallace there.
It's a good positive story, though. That get out there, people. Go and enjoy the amusement park. Actually work and promote Southport as a good, lovely place to go. I've never been, actually, on my to-do list.